Remember that feeling when paying with your phone went from, like, total sci-fi to totally normal? Well, buckle up because we might be on the verge of another financial earthquake. And this time, it's bigger than just how we swipe our cards.
We're talking about stablecoins.
Exactly. And to help us understand what's what, we've got a really interesting article here by some experts from MIT and UCLA. They've been taking a deep dive into the whole competitive landscape of stablecoins, who's winning, who's losing, who's even playing the game. So today, we're bringing that knowledge straight to you.
And what makes stablecoins so fascinating is they're like this bridge between the crazy world of cryptocurrency and the financial systems, the ones we use every single day. Because while cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin have been around for a bit now, their value, well, it's like a roller coaster ride for your savings, right? Up 1 minute, down the next.
Yeah, definitely not for the faint of heart.
Exactly. But stablecoins, now they're designed to, well, stay stable. They're typically pegged to a traditional currency, think US dollars. And this stability, it makes them way more appealing for just your average everyday transactions.
So it's like the difference between trying to buy a cup of coffee with a chunk of gold that's constantly changing in value versus just using, regular money.
Precisely.
But why are stablecoins blowing up right now? I mean, everyone's talking about them. This article, it keeps using this term platform war. What's the deal with that?
Okay, so picture this. A battle royale for control over like this massive new market, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen this before in the tech world. Remember VHS versus Betamax?
Total throwback.
Right. Or even more recently, Uber and Lyft battling it out for ride-sharing domination. These were intense, winner-takes-all kind of situations. And with stablecoins, the stakes are even higher because we're not just talking about watching movies or getting a ride across town. We're talking about the future of money itself.
Okay, so it's not just about which company, creates the coolest stablecoin. It's about who gets to write the rule book for how we use and think about money in this digital age we're living in.
You hit the nail on the head. And the article really drives home why these early stages are absolutely crucial, because once a stablecoin gains traction, like a ton of users, businesses accepting it, it's like trying to put the genie back in the bottle. Near impossible.
So you're saying this is a big deal. We're potentially talking about a complete financial makeover, and the whole thing's happening right now, right under our noses. It's kind of like when the internet went from this niche thing that only tech people used to, well, basically running our entire lives.
Right, exactly.
But before we get lost in the weeds here, let's maybe define something just so everyone's on the same page. When we talk about these crypto native companies, what do we actually mean?
Great question. So think of it this way. Crypto native companies, these are the businesses that were, for lack of a better term, born and raised in the world of cryptocurrency. It's like their DNA is blockchain technology and this whole idea of a decentralized financial system.
So they're like the OG crypto crew, the ones who were there before it was cool.
You got it. They live and breathe this stuff. They were the first ones to really grasp the potential of stablecoins.
So they were like the digital pioneers venturing out into this unknown territory, hoping to strike it rich. But it sounds like they weren't alone for long. This article mentions that even traditional financial institutions, the banks we're all familiar with, they're starting to muscle their way into the stablecoin game.
Right. And that's where things get really interesting.
Okay, so we've got this potential financial revolution brewing, a stablecoin showdown, and now it's time to meet the players. This MIT and UCLA article, it does a really good job of breaking down who's who in this whole new world. Like we were saying, we've got our crypto native companies, the ones who've been in the game from the start. But then we've got these surprise guests showing up.
It's like that moment when a casual game suddenly turns into the finals, Everyone wants in on the action.
Totally. So on one side, we've got those crypto native. What are some of the big names we should know?
Well, you've got Tether. They're kind of the top dogs right now, holding the biggest chunk of the stablecoin market.
They were like the early birds, right? First ones to catch the worm.
Exactly. But they've also had their fair share of, let's say, scrutiny, especially when it comes to the transparency of their reserves. Basically, what's backing their stablecoin.
Ah, so it's like everyone thinks they're loaded, but no one's quite sure what's in their vault.
Kind of, yeah. And then you've got Circle, another major player. They've really been pushing to go mainstream, even teaming up with traditional financial institutions.
Interesting. So it's almost like this classic story of the trailblazers trying to stay ahead while everyone else tries to catch up.
Absolutely. And that brings up another fascinating angle the article digs into. those traditional financial institutions, the banks. What's making them jump into the ring? Are they scared of stablecoins or do they see dollar signs?
Yeah, it's a good question. Are they running away from stablecoins or trying to get a piece of the action?
It's probably a bit of both, to be honest. The article suggests that stablecoins, especially if they really take off, could seriously shake things up in the banking world. Imagine, like, cross-border payments that happen instantly and cost next to nothing compared to the fees banks charge now, or people not even needing a bank account to access financial services.
Whoa, that's a whole other level. So are banks just trying to get ahead of the curve by creating their own stablecoins?
It's a smart move if they don't want to get left in the dust. JP Morgan Chase, for example, they've been developing their own stablecoin, JPM coin. They see the potential for streamlining their operations, cutting costs, and even offering new services to their clients.
So maybe not so much running scared as strategically adapting.
Exactly.
Okay, but we can't forget about the elephants in the room here. The tech giants. I mean, they've already dipped their toes into finance with things like mobile payments. Where do they fit into all of this?
That's the big question mark, isn't it? The article calls them the wild card. Big tech is definitely watching all of this very, very closely. Remember Facebook's attempt to launch its own digital currency, Libra, or Diem as they later called it.
How could we forget? Didn't exactly go as planned.
Definitely caused a stir. Major regulatory backlash. The whole thing fizzled out. But that doesn't mean big tech has given up entirely.
Yeah, once they get an idea, they tend to, hold on tight.
Exactly. And companies like Apple, Google, Amazon, they've got the tech know-how, they've got millions of users, and they've definitely got the cash. If they decided to go all in on stablecoins, they could become major players.
It's almost like we're talking about a future where, financially speaking, we're relying on a handful of incredibly powerful entities, whether it's these mega banks, tech giants, or even the crypto natives who are quickly becoming household names. So where does that leave us, the everyday users? What happens as stablecoins become more and more a part of our financial lives? So it's like we're watching this financial wrestling match, right? Banks, big tech, these crypto pioneers, they're all fighting for control of the stablecoin ring.
And as you said earlier, it makes you wonder, where do we, the everyday users, fit into all of this? What's the takeaway for us? How could this actually change things?
Exactly. And the article does a good job of laying out those potential futures, the what-ifs.
Yeah, they present two main scenarios, and they're pretty different, which I think makes this even more interesting.
Okay, so hit me with it. Two possible stablecoin futures. What do they look like?
All right, so picture this. Scenario one, a couple stablecoins, they basically become the big dogs, like the Visa and MasterCard of the digital world. Everywhere you go, they're accepted. Super easy to use.
So kind of like what we're used to with credit cards, just, digital.
Right, exactly. Convenient, for sure.
Yeah.
But, and this is a big but.
There's always a but.
Always. But this kind of scenario, it makes you think about potential monopolies, just like we see with credit cards today. Imagine a world where just a tiny number of companies, they're controlling the vast majority of digital transactions. They decide the fees, they set the terms. It could get messy.
Okay, so not exactly the revolution we were hoping for.
Yeah, it's like, we traded in our horses for cars, but we're still stuck in traffic,
Totally. Okay, so what's the other road we could go down? What's scenario 2 look like?
All right, imagine this instead. A whole bunch of stablecoins, not just a few big players, but tons of them. Each one may be tied to a specific brand, a company, even a country.
So instead of one main highway, it's more like back roads and side streets.
That's a great way to put it. And this scenario, it could lead to some really interesting things. More competition, which usually means lower costs for us, the users. And we could see a ton of innovation as everyone tries to, stand out from the crowd.
Okay, now that sounds kind of exciting. What would that look like in real life?
Well, imagine paying for your groceries with your supermarket stablecoin, and you get extra loyalty points for using it. Or sending money to your friend overseas, and it's instant.
Yeah.
And it's automatically in their local currency because you used a stablecoin designed for that.
See, that's the future I'm talking about. That's what gets me pumped about this whole thing. But, and maybe this is a stupid question, wouldn't that be super confusing? If there are hundreds of stablecoins, wouldn't that just be a nightmare to keep track of?
Yeah, that's the trade-off. Too much choice can be overwhelming. It might be tough to figure out which stablecoin to use when. You might end up with a digital wallet bursting with different stablecoins. And who needs that kind of headache?
So what's the answer? Do we play it safe and go for convenience, or do we roll the dice and see what this stablecoin explosion could bring?
That's the million-dollar question. And honestly, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but I think the article does a great job of highlighting these potential futures and these really important questions we need to be asking ourselves now as this technology evolves.
Exactly. We need to be informed. We need to understand the possibilities, both the good and the maybe not so good, because at the end of the day, we want a financial system that works for everyone,
Mhm.
right? Not just the big players. So, to our listeners, keep your eyes peeled. This is a story that's still being written, and understanding stablecoins, it's not just about like tech anymore, it's about all of us. And hey, maybe in a few years, paying with stablecoins will be as normal as, ordering takeout on your phone.
Definitely something to keep an eye on.
As always, thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Until next time.